Hey you guys, today I want to talk to you about edge jointing a board without the use of a jointer. And there's many ways of doing this, but I want to show you my way that I think is super easy and requires no jig at all. And I thought of making this video because I'm in the process of squaring up these cutting boards that I'm making. I already did this one and now I need to make this big one to square it up. And I have a jointer, but my jointer, it's a bench type jointer, and I don't know if I want to put these glue up panels through a jointer. So I'm going to do it on the table saw, no jig required, and we can get nice straight edges. So let's go see how it's done. Now what happens if you have a board that is not straight and you just run it against the fence and then you flip it over and run the other edge on the fence? If your board is not square and straight, what's going to happen? You will end up with two cuts that are straight, but they're not going to be square. They're probably going to go in an angle. So instead of ending up with a square or a rectangle, you will end up with a parallelogram. So your edges will kind of be like this. Now I said I'm going to show you how to do this with no jig at all, but before I do that, I want to show you what jigs are available. Some of the jigs that are out there, it's one of this maybe a tapering jig. This one does have a miter bar that runs into the miter slot. So then you will clamp your board on the edge of this jig and run it through, and it references the miter slot. Then there's also tapering jigs like this one from Micro Jig. This one does not have a miter bar, and you will run it through and it references the straight edge. You clamp your piece into position, and then you is referencing the straight edge as you push it through, and then you end up with a straight square edge. Or you can use a jig like this that I made myself, and this one has a miter bar as well, and I use one of those micro jig dovetail clamps, and then we'll run this through, and that's how you end up with another square edge. So my cutting board has fairly straight edges. There's just, the glue squeeze out. I tried to align them as much as I could, but it's not perfectly square and straight. And I want to get this as perfect as I can. So the way I will do it is just by using a piece of wood that is a scrap. And I know this one is flat. This one was a leftover piece of maple from the cutting board. And I know I cut it. It was square and flat. And the way I will use this, I'll put my board on the edge. I'll put this scrap of wood over here. I'm just going to tape it with some blue tape. Doesn't take much. Maybe I'll put 3 pieces. And this method, I used to use it all the time when I did not have a jointer. And it works really well for edge jointing. So there you go. I glue that scrap of wood onto the edge of my board. And now when I will run this to the table saw, I will reference the very straight edge of this board, not the jaggedy glue squeeze out of my cutting board. So let's take this to the table saw and give it a test. Now the blade I'm using onto my table saw, it's not the best blade. It's actually pretty not sharp at this moment. I have to get a new one. It's a thin curved blade, so it'll bend a little bit and deflect. But that's what I have right now. I do not want to use a full curve because this is a lot of material. And if I put a full curve blade over here, even though it will be sharper than this one, it's going to struggle. This table saw does not have that much power. And you will see even with the thin curve, it will struggle a little bit as I will push this board through. So blade is to the correct height. Now I will adjust the fence. And let's try that. That looks pretty good. Lock it in place. And let's send it through. So now I have two edges that are straight and parallel to each other. They're square, and I just have to do the other ends. And normally I would just take this and reference the flat edge onto my miter saw and cross cut. But I'm gonna do it on the table saw and use the same exact method. I will tape this board to the edge, run one side, flip it over, and do the other side. So I hope this was helpful and you learned something new. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Skylar Ewing, and I'll see you in my next video.